Hello, I am Sensei Kevlar. Welcome back to the dojo. Let's take a look at some charts this morning. We're going to open today by request with Zcash against the dollar, and in my opinion, this one's in a pretty prime spot. However, we're definitely, in a situation where predicting a further bottom from here is tricky. Fortunately, yesterday we talked about the tools for doing such a thing. Let's say that we were to imagine my tools. I got the pitchfork selected. That this motion right here were to be repeated, that some standard deviation of this motion were to be repeated right here. The first obvious line that we would get on the retracement across this right here would be the 61.8 at 100% of the motion. Okay, that gives us our $34 mark, followed by the $10 mark, which is the 200%, 61.8% mark. The second standard deviation beyond the first standard after 100% of the first standard deviation. What about the retracement? Can we project more information out of this? Not misclick that. Let's try that again. Well, let's assume that this motion right here were to happen again. We want to know some standard deviation of that. Right, I'm just going to go ahead and measure this motion right here up to this motion right here. I'm sorry, this motion right here, and then I'm going to shift it by this motion right here. And what do we end up with? Well, first of all, we end up with a lot of correlated lines along this right here. This line is heavily correlated. This line is heavily correlated. See how these two lines right here practically overlap each other. And sure enough, this is very much what the market is paying attention to. Okay. But what else appeared here? Well, first of all, this line showed up. Secondly, this line showed up. Right? And then beyond that, we have the 78.6 right here. Beyond the 61.8. Well, could this be the next motion downward that we're planning for? Down to $41? That's how I would make my plan. And what's more is I would look for historical, I'd go back and I'd look for historical support at that point. Or resistance. Seeing if it didn't turn around at $41. 41.43, $41.43 right here. Because it definitely did the turnaround at $48 right here on the 61.8. Which is just below the 100% of the motion. Right? It definitely did turn around on that line right there. So our projection definitely did give us a number that our regular measurement didn't give us. Our retracement didn't give us. And suddenly we have the information that the market is using to program their bots. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to go down here and then turn around. What I'm saying is that the people are programming their bots down here. They're also, in a position right here, I assure you. So, assuming that we're in a position right here, and we're planning for here and here, what's our next move? Well, we better put our sell orders in, too. Well, assuming that we have... Let's try a new strategy, right? We were talking about strategies last night. Let's try yet a third strategy for selling, right? What happens when we get here and, maybe we cross our profit line somewhere in here? Because we've been dollar cost averaging this motion downward. Cross our profit line something right here. Okay, here's our first target. For if here's our profit line, let's just draw that profit line. Our imaginary profit line, a point at which we're green. Okay, then here would be our first sell target. What could we do? Well, we could sell 50% of our position. What could we do here? We could sell 50% of our remaining position. So if the first time we sold, you know, 100, if we had $100 and we sold $50 worth the first time, we could sell $25 worth here the second time, and $12.50 here the third time, and, you know, $6.25 here the fourth time. Now, obviously, I'm just using round numbers, but these numbers scale. Just apply them to whatever your position is. You know, obviously, you wouldn't have $100 here. Maybe you have $1,000 here. The point is that, you know, depending upon what strategy you use, you're going to end up with a different profit scenario. And you can test out these different profit scenarios in a market like this without actually spending any money, figuring out how much money you would have made if this was your target up here. And you were selling all the way up and buying. As soon as you sell, you turn around and bought this again. And bought this again. Let's move on from this one. TRXETH. Now here's a fantastic opportunity, or at least it was, right? Is take a look at what would have happened if you had been doing your analysis back here in April. You got out here and you got in here with a planned dollar cost average here. You could have gotten out here, gone in here with a planned dollar cost average here, and then you did. Gotten, you know, partially out here, more out here, more out here. Okay, could we have projected this peak based upon this motion back here? Let's find out. Let's find out if that's what the market did. Right? What if we were to project that this motion would happen, moving up, but then it would be shifted down, and this would become the new bottom? What we want to do is we want to extend this into the future. Or do our lines fall? Well, sure enough, this line got respected. If this is 100, you know, if this is 100% of our motion, right here, this would be the 100% mark. Well, 78.6 certainly got respected pretty well on that. The 61.8, we definitely saw a pause at that coming up. The 50% mark got respected over and over again. The 38.2 definitely got hit over and over. And the 23.6 right here. Okay? Just by doing this motion and projecting into the future, we literally predicted where our turnaround points were in the future. They were here, 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 and here, and here. Here was the major turnaround point. Here's where you should have been doing all of your selling. Here's where you should have gotten out, because you had projected that this motion would happen again, except shifted down to this level right here. And then it did. And if you got out here, this is all you missed out on, but you took advantage of all of this motion. And then are you coming down? Are you getting in again right here on this line right here? I hope so. And then are you going up and getting in again, getting out again right here? I hope so. And are you getting out and then dollar cost averaging when it comes down to this line right here? Yeah, man, because now you're making money today. Look how much money you're making. Okay, so let's do this again. Let's assume that we're going to get this motion upward, except it's going to be shifted down by this much. Okay, well, here's the 100% mark again. Again. It's a completely different motion that we were measuring, and yet here is the 100% mark again, correlated from this prior motion measurement. And now here we are at the 61.8% mark of that 100% motion, and guess where the market turned around? And then here we are at the 200.618% mark, and guess where the market turned around? Could you have been setting your trophies for up here? your long shots, your I've made so much money I can go ahead and afford to hang on to a little bit and see just how high it goes. And made, you know, what is this motion? What is this motion that we actually are measuring here? 167%? Yeah, I'll take that. I call that crushing it. We had a request for BTC, which is a special case because this is brand new. Just hit the markets. So the charts are looking a little sparse, but that doesn't mean that we don't have information to work off of. First of all, we can clearly see that we have established a bottom, and we recently established a top. Why don't we go ahead and measure that? From the bottom to the top, extend it on over. Did we turn around and stop at the 38.2 only to bounce back up to the 23.6? Yeah, we did. Was there sideways motion at the 61.8% of that? Certainly. Can we now start to predict that these are our buy levels? For this market coming down, a buy here, a buy here, a buy here, with the hope that what's going to happen next is it's going to come down and then pop up again and make us our money. Alternatively, what it could do next is it could go down further before it comes up and makes us our money. Alternatively, it could go down further before it pops up and makes us our money. And on and on and on. You better have a buy plan that comes all the way down here. Now, can we go beyond that? Of course we can. What if we project that this motion right here is going to happen again, except we're going to consider this the new top? Okay. Well, down here would be the 1.618%, the harmonic oscillation of that motion, right? What about below that? Well, here would be the 2.618. We're kind of lacking in information here. We don't quite have enough information to make a good projection off of this. But we could certainly make a projection to say in the opposite direction, right? We've definitely got some room to run down here. And by the time we get down here, we could probably project some more numbers based off the motions that we're seeing. We could definitely do a fib-based extension up, saying we're going to measure the motion up, and then we're going to shift it down by this much, and then we're going to extend it into the future. Okay. Well, here is the 50% mark of that motion back up. Here's 100% of that motion back up. You know, could we be projecting that we're going to be doing our selling here, 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 and here? Only be buying back in here, here, and here? Absolutely. Now we've got a plan that's going to make us profitable no matter what this market is going to do. XLM BTC. Props to my buddy. Okay. He's certainly come down a lot. He's in a prime buying position. This is an excellent opportunity to be creating this opportunity for ourselves. Let's measure this massive motion right here. Okay. We can definitely see some strong correlation at the 50% mark of that motion. At the 38.2. Definitely busted right through the 23.6. And now we're down here. Okay. What other motions are we seeing that we could measure? Can we do a projection based upon this motion, or one of these motions? It's kind of tricky because we don't really have an up motion to measure it by, right? Well, let's see what we could do. We could take from right here, come down to here, and then measure if this were to happen again. Not really getting a lot of good information off of this, but we definitely do have some lower price points that we could hit right here in terms of, creating a buying plan that has us buying right here and buying right here. But what I'm telling you is I think it's much more likely that these are the correlations that the traders are actually looking at. This one right here, this really does form your sell, this forms your buy, and now we have a plan to make us profitable, because we're going to get into a pretty big position, assuming that we've dollar cost averaged all the way down here. So making a big buying plan that has us, selling a good portion as we come up through here, only to hang on to a little bit that comes up here, it's probably a good idea in this bear market. So this is an example of adjusting our strategy to deal with the fact that we don't necessarily want to be holding a lot when we can make profit on it. Assuming that this market really is going to continue downward, any opportunity we see to get out, we might weight that and sell 70 or 80% of our portfolio, right? And then switch to selling 50%. I'm sorry, our position in here, assuming that we're profitable on that. So this is an example of, we're analyzing the trend and we're not happy with this market and we want to get out of this market. So we can do things like weight our distribution schedule towards getting us out. Yeah, XLM's looking ugly. Not happy about it. Same thing's happening here. I mean, we've definitely got some really heavily correlated motions. Assuming that this can come down and then pop up again, and then we can repeat that motion downward. Okay. Assuming that this can pop down and then go up, and then we're, here. We could be making buying plans for this number right here, because we definitely did see a heavy correlation at this line, which means that traders were coming in here and, back here, right back here on this day, they were going, well, all right, I'm seeing that it's making, a quadruple bottom here. It's going 1, 2, 3, 4 tests of support. But I want to make sure that I have a plan for when it breaks through that support. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the information I have, I'm going to take this motion downward, I'm going to shift it by this much, and I'm going to see what it would look like if that same motion were to happen downward. Shifted by this much to be our new top. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put my buy order here, 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 here. And did that work out for us? Yeah, that's exactly what happened is, if we had bought here and then got out here, we would be buying back in here, and we would be buying back in here with a plan to buy back in here, here, and then make our money coming up here. See what else we got. Hot, ETH, HOT, ETH. Oh, this is an interesting one. Remind me to bring this up in a different class. Okay. What we've got here is we've got a fairly new market. This is, August of last year, or this is July of last year that it got introduced. And the trend, if we just take this trend right here, it got broken a few times, but then it got respected again, only to get broken again, only to get respected again. We can clearly see there's a negative trend that's happening here, and not a pretty one to be in, right? It's kind of all over the place, and I'm not sure how useful, a trend-based extension would be here. Let's see what happens. So if we're assuming that this motion can come down and happen again, and this is the new top from which that motion can start, this would be 100% of that motion occurring again. We definitely did see motion, support at the 50% and at the 61.8%. of that motion, which is, 2,000 Satoshis and 2,500 Satoshis. These are interesting markets, but they're hard to make work because you're dealing with so much loss at a time. You really just got to get, you really got to get used to the idea that you're just going to be buying a lot and then getting out in situations like this when you have a situation like this where it's just the trend is constantly downward. You don't want to be staying in this in any long-term capacity. Link BTC. Chain Link. Oh yeah, check that guy out. Okay. So back here in August, we were definitely, plotting this resistance point, and it came down and broke through it. Let's see that happening here. Definitely saw resistance at this line, and then it turned into hard support. Love that support. Okay. So if we were measuring this little bottom right here, I'm just going to ignore this little dip that kind of broke through the bottom right there, and we're saying that this motion is going to happen again, and we're now here. Okay, this is what we know. We're now here in time, right? We're going to take our tool, we're going to measure this motion, and we're going to say, well, if this is the new bottom, which it kind of clearly is forming 3-4 bottoms here, let's go ahead and project that in time, right? And see if we can make 100% of that motion again. Yeah. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what traders were counting on. Is when they got to 100% of this motion, man, they were out. They were selling, only to buy it back in, sell, buy it back in, right? When it came back down here, you bet they started buying again, and it started turning around and getting choppy and sideways. 50% got respected pretty heavily. The 23.6, though, that was really, really a good, heavily correlated, right? Against this 100% bottom, or 0% bottom right here that we were measuring for our downturn. So I would say that this is a great opportunity to be making all kinds of buying plans, to be buying right here so you can get out here, so you can buy again right here, so that when it comes down to here, you can dollar cost average, so it can come up to here and make you your money. So when it comes back down to here, you can dollar cost average, and when it comes up to here, you can make your money. So when it comes down to here, because that's really what you should expect to see next. If you followed these things at all, you know that anytime you see this is what you see afterwards, right? And it isn't to say it's a rule, it's to say it's statistically correlated. More often than not, what happens next is not a continuation of this pattern right here, right? It's you getting ready to make your money down here if you want to be in this opportunity. El Macho, Audie, my buddy, dude, when you coming over? ADA, BTC, Mr. Cardano. Audie needs to come over. Let's see here. Man, you definitely could have created the opportunity right here. Good. I'm glad to hear it, buddy. Definitely he could have created the opportunity right here, because historically we were probably charting this up against this motion right here. But we definitely need to know what the lines beneath it are, right? There's a couple ways that we could approach this, but you know, what I think is interesting to look at is what happens when this motion... Let's do our projection. What I think is interesting to see happens is when this motion comes down to right here, and then this becomes the new top for that motion downward. Right? It's not a lot, but what you do see is you definitely do see this line come out of here. And if you look more closely, zoom a little bit. That is absolutely what traders were paying attention to, right? They were paying attention to the 50% mark, 50% retracement on that. They were absolutely paying to the 38.2. They were absolutely paying attention to the 23.6. If you see that these are where the market did its turnarounds, right? Gave you the sell opportunity. And it didn't give you the opportunity to get in again before you needed to sell more. And so that's what you need to be measuring, right? You need to be measuring that if you had sold everything here, that you wouldn't have had the opportunity up here, right? But you would have up here when you dollar cost averaged. Coming up with the plan, making the plan that makes you profitable is what makes you the trader you are. I'm not saying that you should actually do this. What I'm saying is you should understand what other traders are doing if you want to maximize your opportunities against those other traders. DGD, BTC, no, DGB, BTC, yeah, Digibyte. Okay. Man, what a money-making opportunity this is going to be. Comes down here and touches this support and bounces off of it again after doing this big motion right here. Okay. We've got so many motions to measure. Right? What if... So let's just do a fib retracement on this motion right here. Okay. Of this motion, it came down and stopped at 50% of that motion. And then it definitely bounced on this line, the 38.2, and the 23.6, where it bounced back up and respected it. Right? If we're here and we're projecting out into the future, right? We're here and we're projecting out into the future because we want to know how to trade this next. Well, we definitely sold right here and right here, only to buy in here and here. And did we know to buy in here because of previous support levels? We definitely sold right here to buy in back here and dollar cost average here, which is what we've done right now. Now, what happens when we project the next motion downward? We say this motion, and I want it shifted downward by this much. Sorry, wrong way. Try that again. I want to measure this motion downward, and I want to measure this as our new top. Okay? Well, we definitely see lots of correlation along this line right here, and we definitely have some new lines for buying at. The 78.6 and the 100% of this motion right here, retracement from this top. Bot programmers are going to come in here and they're going to look at this just like we are right now, and they're going to put their buy orders here and here. Well, what are you going to do if you want to be profitable in this market? Are you going to make the plan to have it come up to here? What strategy should people have been buying in the down market when with super low funds? Or should you stick with, should we sell some coins and get into other opportunities, or stick with buying coins, little fiat we have? Yeah, my answer to that is that when funds are super low and you're holding on to a bunch of shit, take the loss on the shit that you didn't make the plan for. You didn't have a plan for it, so you have to accept that your lack of planning caused you to be in a situation where you must be at a loss. The whole point of planning is eliminating the situation where you have to sell at a loss. The reason for that is because you've measured your allocation at the bottom and you will never run out of funds. And if you over allocated, that's not a plan, that's not a failure of the strategy, that's a failure of you to follow the strategy. plan the trade and you trade the plan. And yeah, I'm afraid that that's the answer, is you over-allocated for where the market was relative to your wealth. And you did not account for what happens when this analysis, which makes you think the market is going to do this, instead has the market do this. And that's planning the trade and trading the plan. And I hate to give people that news, is, well, you got to take the loss and move on, but this works. And holding stuff when it goes down doesn't. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that I have the answer to how to make your portfolio right again. What I'm saying is, if you measure that this is more effective, then maybe that's what you should do instead. And I'm here to help you do it, and so's Trader Plan. And that's what we'll be talking about later in the week here. I really appreciate your chart suggestions. Some great questions. I really look forward to the lesson tomorrow, which is going to be about how to automate more of this analysis, automate more of this optimization, and stop doing so much work with regards to seeing the trends, with regards to doing the analysis, with regards to actually creating a plan and optimizing that plan for maximum profitability. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.